Hello there. Now originally, from their first creation, the Sebastian Peacekeepers were created to do just that. Keep the peace. They were originally created by an alien civilization called the Eidolons, who attempted to broker treaties and peace between the various warring powers of the galaxy, but could never successfully do it. The moment they managed to get two races to work together, they would turn on each other again when they walked away. It was a never-ending battle, one they sought to find a solution to. They needed a peacekeeping force, someone who could maintain order amongst all the races once the peacekeepers had left. But no race that was in the galaxy was ideal for this, because they were all at each other's throats and no one would accept any one of the other races from becoming this coveted position. Everyone would have a problem with them, so they sought a species that no one had an issue with. They found a primitive, sentient species living on a backwater world at the edge of the galaxy that no one had ever seen before. Humans. They encouraged their evolution, gave them generous genetic modifications, and the result from this was the Sebastians. The Sebastians would continue to try to keep the peace by whatever means necessary, the only way that they could, at the barrel of a gun, after the Eidolons disappeared and left the galaxy, which is another story. Fast forward to the 20th century. The Peacekeepers and the Scarans are the two most powerful powers in the galaxy. They're at each other's throats, ideologically opposed, neither one of them particularly a good empire, both with positives, both with negatives. One of the Sebastians' positives, so to speak, was one of their most powerful weapons in their arsenal, and that would be the command carrier, a multi-role space frame battleship. This vessel was at once a command ship, a fighter carrier, a battle cruiser, and general purpose operational vessel, generational ship. It was one of, if not the most powerful conventional warships in the entire galaxy that anybody had. It easily outgunned and outfought near any other warship in its same class. The vessel's exact size isn't known, but it was approximately in its stock form, the most commonly produced version, perhaps maybe a little bigger than half the size of a Scaran dreadnought. But there are variants within the class, which we will get to in just a moment. Overall, as I said, one of the most powerful vessels. One of these ships would usually operate as the command vessel for a small flotilla or armada of smaller warships and cruisers that would work as its escort. Sometimes a few command carriers would work together. There was also a variant, which is what I mean by there were some variants within the class, which was specifically designed to work as a command ship for, say, a sector fleet or comparative force within the Peacekeepers. This singular vessel would command the other command carriers and their respective battle groups. This ship was more than double the size of a standard command carrier at an estimated 5,000 meters, which made it about 1,500 meters bigger than a Scaran dreadnought. Notably, though, it wasn't significantly more heavily armed than a conventional command carrier, but it did carry a lot more support craft, military personnel, and command officers to help coordinate and control a larger fleet. In terms of firepower, each ship was equipped as standard with 4 frag cannons, 5 medium pulse cannons, 20 smaller pulse cannons, 200 defensive pulse turrets, and 2 torpedo launchers. They were also equipped with defense screens, basically shields, and they carried an average of around 50,000 personnel and could carry additional troops and personnel and support when needed. You may be asking, the one in there, the frag cannon, the other weapons are all just basically energy weapons, they're plasma projectors or whatever, but the frag cannons are a little different. The frag cannons, according to research done, were a highly classified weapon in their origins, produced by the Peacekeepers, but even people at the command level and the command carriers didn't know where the technology came from, how they worked even. They were in basis a type of railgun. The ship had 4 of them, but each one was a triple turret, capable of moving along the entire horizontal axis of the starship, meaning they could fire at targets at the front, the back, and to the sides of the ship each collection of guns. They had a relatively slow firing rate, but were by far the most powerful weapons carried on a command carrier. Each one would fire a physical projectile and really relied somewhat on kinetic energy. How exactly they worked was again a closely guarded secret, but they were very powerful and very long range, capable of firing several times the vessel's own length away from itself and still retaining its monumental power. They were a capital ship destroying weapon, but they were not particularly good at firing at and tracking smaller targets like fighters or shuttle or transports, simply because of the weapon's slow firing rate. If you missed, it took a while to reload and fire again. It's why they made them in triple turrets. They were actually reverse engineered alien technology from a race called the Kokor. The Kokor had originally developed them, but the Kokor were a far more advanced civilization, with Scorpius noting that the Sebaceans had barely scratched the surface in the full capabilities and destructive potential of this weapon system to what the Kokor were able to get out of it. Basically, the Sebaceans were running around with what seemed like a toy version of a much more powerful weapon. In terms of day-to-day operation, each ship has a single commanding officer as well as a flag officer and other personnel aboard the ship, if it's a command vessel, one of the bigger ships. But generally there's a captain, command staff, and you move down the ranks similar to a naval vessel on Earth, but with army personnel and pilots as well on board. The vessel, for power projection, aside from the command of a small flotilla that usually escorts it, has marauders and prowlers on board for additional power projection purposes. These are small fighter craft. This is how the vessel is also a type of carrier. In addition to them, of course, it carries transports and other such craft used for deployment. These are an extremely versatile and powerful warship, capable of performing a multitude of roles, being something of a jack of all trades, but unlike the master of none, it's something of a master of all, simply because it's so big it packs it all in. It carries about 50,000 personnel on board, as I said, but as these ships operate for prolonged periods of time, and the Sebaceans, although they do have colonies, their concept of civilian is a little different to other races in that they virtually don't have them. Selective breeding programs are instituted amongst the military to produce the next generation of soldiers. Basically, you're told who you're going to have a kid with. Sebacean parents also don't typically raise their children. They're raised in sort of centres, often aboard the ships. This results in an odd situation where a warship becomes more than just a ship and a military platform, but also a home for educating and raising children. Some Sebaceans go as far as to be born on a single vessel. They are raised and educated there. They enlist into the military there. They serve aboard that ship. They have their children aboard that ship, although again they won't really raise them themselves. They will grow old aboard that ship if they're not killed in the line of duty, and they will die aboard that ship, literally serving their entire life aboard a single vessel in service of the greater cause of the Peacekeepers. This is not true of every Sebacean, of course, but it's true of many of them that will live and die aboard these massive, powerful weapons platforms. These ships are fairly ubiquitous across Peacekeeper territory. Other races have learned to fear them because of the power that they represent, the power that they can project, and the fear that they create is basically well earned, because the Peacekeepers are not afraid to use the formidable firepower and capabilities of these ships against their enemies. Ships have been destroyed. These vessels are not invincible. Ships like the Zelbinium, which was one of the great command ships, have been destroyed, although it's usually shocking to most races to find anyone that has enough firepower or capability, or quite frankly the balls, to destroy a Sebacean command ship. And very few have the ability to do it one-on-one. Only a handful of races have that particular title, the Nabari being one of them. One weakness, if you can call it that the ship has, which is really shared by most races: the vessel is FTL capable, but is not capable of jumping straight to it like you would see in another franchise like Star Trek or Star Wars or even Battlestar Galactica. The vessel has to accelerate into FTL slowly, eventually achieving FTL speeds, and then has to decelerate to get back out of it. A bit like a naval vessel does, like any craft does. It has to speed up until it eventually reaches its relativistic velocities. The only ships in the Farscape universe that can do this are Leviathans such as Moya, and their FTL is kind of crazy and it's hard to control, but it is one of the reasons the Peacekeepers are so interested in Leviathan technology, and they would very much like to introduce it to their ships. Unfortunately, the technologies never proved to be particularly compatible, and it seemed to be more easy to enslave Leviathans and make them work for you, but Leviathans were naturally passive ships, unarmed and not willing to fight, as they were pretty much sentient. So this resulted in control collars and other efforts, such as genetically engineering the ships to try and make them be compatible with weapon systems, which we are going to get to in another video. But just touching on it here is what the Sebaceans would kind of get up to. The command carrier overall, fearsome and powerful weapon of war, and it held the backbone of the Peacekeeper and Sebacean society for many years, and was very successful at all of its roles. Powerful ship. Let me know in the comments below. Please like, share and subscribe if you've enjoyed this video. Hit the bell notification because it is the real subscribe button if you want to find more of these videos and you want to see the new releases. There are more Farscape episodes to come if you've watched this when it's a new release. If not, there's a playlist linked somewhere up in the corner which should lead you to all the other Farscape videos that I've created on this channel up to the date of whenever you're watching this video. Other than that, we're now at the end of this episode, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. Bye bye. I'd just like to say a thank you to everyone for watching that video. I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoy making these. If you did enjoy it, please consider giving a like, share and a subscribe, and maybe checking out the other videos on the screen right now, and in the description box below there are links to my other social media accounts.